Welcome back to another episode of the Elevated Chat Room. Elevate your mind, elevate your life. It's your host, Lonzo Jones, checking back in. Man, it seems like it's been a while, but I am happy to be back, man, to kick this new year off. We got a special guest with us tonight. Her name is Rebecca Jones. But before I let her take over and kind of let her introduce herself, let you guys know what the topic is for tonight. The legacy of love, mental health, grief, and prevention. All right, Miss Rebecca, can you kind of tell them a little bit more about yourself?
So my name is Rebecca Jones. I am the founder of the Kyle Jones Foundation, which is named after my son. He was the youngest of my three boys, and he was 19 when he took his life. And after that, we decided that we wanted to do something to help other families, other young adults and teens kind of navigate the same struggles that he had. When he was 7, we also lost his father, my husband, to suicide as well. So for us, it was a double hit. And so, seeing that so up close and personal, like you can't get any closer, it just kind of changed the course of all our lives.
Yeah.
And so rather than just sit back and do nothing and wallow in grief, we decided to get up and do something. We live in Rogersville, and our little community lost several young men in a very short period of time in 2023 to suicide and mental health struggles. And so just doing nothing wasn't an option for us. Finding ways to work to help other families, especially other mothers for me, but just parents in general, to not feel alone, to not feel like it's only their child that's struggling, to not feel like they're the only one who doesn't have answers, to just figure out how to navigate that, because it's difficult.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So with it being your husband and one of your sons, is that somehow hereditary, or is that just something do you have any knowledge on that? I'm pretty sure you probably did a lot of digging afterwards.
Yeah, so mental health does have a genetic component.
Okay.
It's not always a guarantee.
Yeah.
But it definitely has a trace in there. It's kind of like with addiction. They say that sometimes there's a genetic link for that.
Yeah.
It just doesn't always appear the same way from one generation to the next. It's kind of the same thing with mental health. And so I can clearly see a line in that side of their family tree that didn't always look like mental health. But, with hindsight, you see a lot of things differently.
Yeah.
And you can see where those markers were there. But life experience plays into that too. And so that's the issue with mental health treatment is mental health diagnosis and causes are so widespread. Yeah. There's no cookie cutter treatment like there is for something like heart disease or diabetes or cancer. The list is short of options for those. But mental health, there's a long list of possibilities for treatment and a long list of possibilities for causes.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. So the term legacy of love, what does that mean to you?
So we have a phrase we use that's kind of where we started, was a love like Kyle Jones. We kind of did it as a hashtag. We started a Facebook page that simply was that. And really we started it as a way for his friends and our family to just be able to leave stories about Kyle, because we started hearing all these stories from all these people that I didn't even know.
Yeah.
I didn't even know he knew, across 3 counties, multiple schools. The child was 19. I don't know how he knew so many people, but he did. And all of them told me the same thing, that Kyle always made their day better. It didn't matter what he had going on. It didn't matter how much he was struggling. He showed up for them. He showed up when they were struggling, if they were on the side of the road with a flat tire, if they were hungry. He was the kid that would give you his last dollar and not tell you it was his last dollar.
Yeah.
He might not even like you, but if he saw you stranded on the side of the road, he would still stop and try to help you. He had this great big heart that just wanted to make somebody else's world a little better, even if his was kind of in the gray.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of took off with the love like Kyle Jones, because Kyle Jones was a one of a kind. He's just not the kid you meet every day. And so he was able to make everybody laugh and make, just the room brighter just by coming in it with his personality. And we just kind of wanted to take that and use that as our way to treat people. to just meet them as they are, where they are, with what they have, not try to judge them or change them or tell them you can't be, you can't do, you can't have, because that doesn't help. You know, it doesn't make somebody feel better to tell them all the can'ts.
Right.
And so we wanted to be able to love on people like he did and just try to help them see that somebody cares. When you think nobody cares, somebody cares.
That's good. I love that. When you were saying what you were saying about how you love to help people, and there's a quote that came to my mind, and we say this quite often, and it says that if you're not making someone else's life better, then you're wasting your time. So in life, anything that we do daily, we should be looking to make somebody else's life better, no matter what's going on with us. Mm-hmm. Because I've learned that by helping others, by bringing joy, encouragement to somebody else, mm-hmm. you get fulfillment. It makes you feel better. It fills you to a certain level inside. And so, man, I love it. That's awesome. You had something you was about to say? Yeah,
so I actually had that very conversation with a lady today. We were talking about how different people handle different tragedies. Yeah. And I always say to people, hard is hard is hard is hard. Your hard might look different from my hard, but it doesn't make it any easier for you just because it looks different. Because what one person can handle and get up and keep walking, the next one may cripple from.
That is true.
And so you can't really compare. You don't compare apples and apples when it's tragedy and heartache. And she was saying that she didn't understand how I could be able to talk about my son and try to help other parents. And just, I get that a lot.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make sense, really, truly, especially to do it so quickly. But I had to. I had to for myself. I had to for other mamas. I needed to for my son. Yeah. Because he would not have been happy with me sitting down and giving up. And so I had to make myself do exactly that, find a way to use my life to make other people's lives better. And that's what I said to her. I said, if you're not finding a way to make somebody else's life better, then what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Because life is very short. And so if all you're doing is walking around miserable, that's no way to live.
Right. Well, that's amazing. It's amazing how God can use some of the most tragic situations and still bring about a purpose. Mm-hmm. Can still bring good out of it. So there's people that live in the same household, raised, with mom and dad, and someone at home, mom or dad passes away, and it could be 4 or 5 kids in there, and all of them handle it differently. Mm-hmm. Just depending on. And I tell people all the time, just because you was raised in the home by the same parents doesn't mean you have the same experiences with them. Like, everybody's relationship with their parents is different, so everybody's grief is going to be different. Mm-hmm. So we have to give people grace and pray they give you grace too when you need it,
Yeah.
And, but hats off to you for being strong. And I'm praying that God will continue to see you through and continue to give you the strength, especially if you're making an impact on other people's lives. Because I can only imagine how tough that could possibly be. That's some things as a parent you never even want to think about, No. So, but yeah, it says, so how has losing both your husband and son shaped you? We kind of hit on that just a little bit, but how has that shaped you?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just what we were talking about. It has made me a lot more accepting of other people's struggles, because you don't know what goes on in somebody's mind or in their home or just in their life in general. And so it's made me be kinder to how people handle things. Like you just said, it causes me to give them more grace. God's given me plenty, so I shouldn't hold on to that. I should pour that out to somebody else. And it's just made me kind of softer, I think. It's taken some of that sharp edge off and allowed my heart to be gentler where it needs to be, but it's also made me more protective of where I spend my energy.
Yeah.
That I don't just do something just for the sake of doing something. I've learned to say no, which took a long time, but it's okay to just say, I can't. Yeah. I can't put this on my plate. I'm still learning that one.
We all are still learning that.
Yeah. It's an everyday struggle, I think, but it's made me realize that not everything is worth my energy or my reaction or my time.
I agree. I was speaking with this lady, and she was going through some things with me, and she said that if anybody asks you something outside of your main responsibilities, she said if you can't answer them with a heck yeah, then you don't need to do it.
That's good.
And I was like, So I started, when you really think about it, if I can't be like, heck yeah, I'll do that, then if it's gonna bring you any type of like stress, any type of feeling of being overwhelmed, then she was like, if you cannot say heck yeah, then just don't do it. And you don't owe nobody no explanation.
Yeah, because if your heart's not in it, you're not going to give your best.
Yeah.
It's not going to benefit the next person like it needs to.
True.
And the truth is, you're probably in the way of the right person being in that spot.
I like that. That's good. I like that. It's you were speaking about how, it's made you softer. It's made you look at things from a different perspective. Mm-hmm. We like to say, like, don't judge people before you know their experience. Like, we'll see somebody and we'll see them in this situation or circumstance, and automatically we'll assume and we judge and we place that judgment on them. But we don't even know their experience. We don't know how they got there. We don't know their story.
Right.
So get to know somebody, before you start judging somebody, and everybody's not raised the same way you are. My normal is not your normal.
Right.
It's amazing how you can meet kids and they can be raised in a home and they think their home is just great. And then they go into somebody else's home and it's like, wow, y'all do things a little bit different over here. Mm-hmm. I think I like it a little bit more better over here, Right. But it's not that the way they're raising that kid is not wrong. It's just different. And then when he saw another level that you can go to, it was like, you know what? That's inspiration. Like, I know with me growing up, it was like there were certain things that I didn't want to do that my parents showed me, and certain things I did want to do. Mm-hmm. So it was like I took the good, the bad, and the ugly and shaped it to form what I thought was good, from my home. Mm-hmm. So anything else you want to say on that question before we move on, or if I said anything that's
I think it's just, I think the biggest thing is it taught me to give grace, to just realize I don't have all the answers, to realize there are a lot of things that are out of my control.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I'm truly only responsible for my own actions, but I am responsible for my own actions. I can't decide what somebody else is going to do or how they're going to handle something, but I can decide how I'm going to respond to that.
Yeah. That's good. I think we kind of hit on this one earlier. It said, what inspired you to turn grief into a mission to help others? Because sometimes you can start something and lose momentum, mm-hmm. and it doesn't become a movement. So we kind of understand what made you kind of get up and start it, but what has made it a mission?
Like I said, our community lost several young men right there. Within a 6-week period, we lost 3 young men between the ages of 17 and 30 within like a 5 or 6 mile radius. That's a lot.
That is.
And if you go look at our community as a whole, just in the last 5 years, we've lost several young people, predominantly male, because the suicide rate for males is 4 to 1 for females. The numbers in our county, in Lauderdale County, are high. Alabama is high according to the national average anyway, and then Lauderdale County is well above that. So that wasn't why I started, but once I started seeing numbers, it's why I had to keep going. Because when you look at the numbers for 2024, because 2025 numbers are not out yet,
right?
But 2024 in the U.S., there's 1 suicide death every 11 minutes.
What?
Every 11 minutes. And then in 2023, 3.7 million people made a plan for suicide and 1.5 million attempted in just the U.S. That's a lot. I would
never think it's that many.
And that's the thing, is because we don't talk about it. We talk about it now more than we ever have.
True.
But in some ways it's talked about flippantly and taken lightly, and it becomes a catchphrase. Especially with young people, there's little things they put on their social media or in their private messages that they don't mean them, but they don't realize the gravity of them.
Yeah.
And once you put that out there, you become desensitized to it, and it's easier to let those thoughts linger in there, and they kind of grow. And so I think at some point we have to change the conversation with them about how your words matter, even just in a passing comment.
Yeah.
But the numbers we particularly focus on the age group of 15 to 25, 29.
Okay.
Because that's the group that kind of gets lost in the shuffle. You know, they're too old to be considered children, but a lot of them aren't really fully into adulthood responsibilities. Right. And there's just not a lot out there to help them navigate that. And so once I started seeing those numbers, like it really became very personal for me. It's not just us. We didn't just get a bad hand. God didn't just pick on us. Whatever the reason is for my life to be that way, I need to do something with it.
Do you have any idea why it's so high?
There's a lot of factors, but there's no way to pinpoint any one. And that's like I was saying about, the reasons for mental health struggles. They're so widespread. Yeah. And ironically, if you poll high school students, we have found this number to be pretty consistent across the board. I've dug into it quite a bit. People generally jump to bullying as a number one cause for suicide in teenagers. Mm-hmm. It's not. A lot of times it's not even in the top 5. It's a lot of things. Sometimes it's just their inner thought process. Something's just not clicking right. But they don't tell anybody because they think there's something wrong with them. Really, maybe your body just isn't doing something it needs to do. It just may not be producing a chemical, or it may be overproducing something, or it may just be your genetic makeup is just not where you need it to be.
Yeah.
But kids don't talk about it, so they don't know to get any help. And so there's a long list.
Yeah.
And the numbers are out there for all those different things. But I was very surprised personally, and even with talking with some school leaders, some knew that was not as high as it's given credit for. Others were as surprised as I was, because it's just kind of the default. And I think it's because we think it's a tangible solution.
Yeah.
It's something we can put our hands on and fix. And so we kind of default to that because we want to help and we want to make things better. And so just as a general public, we look at the thing that's fixable.
That makes sense. And we've learned that dealing with bullying, that the bully is going through so much himself or themselves, and we're so quick to jump on the bully instead of trying to help the bully, so it's a lot. These kids are exposed to so much. And my boys are now 11 and 9, and they're not going to get a cell phone. They're not going to have access to, like your Facebook, IG, what else? Snapchat, like none of those type of social, they will not have access to those until they're well mature.
Yeah.
We didn't get into, we was in college. This was when it was a create. Right. I think I was in my 2nd or 3rd year in college when Facebook came out. We had MySpace before then, but I know that does a lot of damage to kids, especially if it's not monitored. They see so much, they get picked on so much, they start comparing, and it's just so many things, like you said, in that mind, it just gets their mind churning. And I want to do this, I want to do that. Well, why does he get to do this? Why do they have? Why they get to go here? Why it's so many different things, and I'm like, y'all not ready for it, and it kind of bothers me when I see parents, when I see kids that are like 4th, 3rd, 5th graders just walking around with cell phones with total access, total freedom with the cell phone.
Yeah.
And then you wonder why your kid acts a certain way. I mean, he is literally soaking this stuff up.
Yes.
He's watching it all day. The screen time is dangerous.
It is.
So, but I was listening to Bruce Lee. Okay. And everybody knows his mind wasn't like, he was just like different. His mind was sharp in what he did and how he thought. And he said that we have to be careful with our words, kind of what you were saying earlier. And we know that the Bible says life and death is in the power of the tongue. But he took it this way. He said that that's why they call words, when you spell them, you're casting a spell. And I was like, wow. It literally resonated with me so quick.
That's good.
Do you see what I'm saying?
That's good.
You're right. And I was like, man, I never thought about it like that.
Mm-mm.
And I was like, no, but Bruce Lee was in a whole nother realm. Like the stuff that he could will himself to do, like it seemed like it was almost humanly impossible.
Yeah.
If you go back and watch some clips of him,
Mm-hmm.
but when he said that, I was like, man, that is so powerful. Like even when you're reading something, you're spelling something, you're speaking it, you're casting spells.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you would think like they hid it, but no, they really said like spell it. Like I know the word pharmacy in a different language means sorcery. So when you go get medicine, it's designed to put you under a different type of spell. Mm-hmm. That's why people who get on certain medicines, they start hallucinating and they start seeing things. Like, you're not in your right mind if you're seeing things.
Yeah.
So that medicine has taken you to a different place, a different realm.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, I don't know how we got on that.
Well, no, actually, it's actually a good connection there, because that's one of the things, like we talk to when I talk to other parents of like, don't be afraid to take your child to the doctor to see if medicine needs to be an option, but don't let that be the only option. Mm-hmm. That doesn't need to be the fix-all.
Yeah.
They need a counselor. They need a therapist. They need multiple avenues of ways to work through whatever it is that's going on with them, because they're not always going to tell you as their parent. They're not always going to tell you what's going on. Yeah. And every kid needs a trusted adult. Yeah. That they can be influenced by in a positive way, that they can confide in, that they can say things they can't say to mom or dad, because sometimes it's not that they don't love mom or dad. It's just we see life different. And so they need a sounding board. Yeah,
that makes perfect sense. I agree with you. And that's what we tell kids, that we come in contact with. Find you someone, an adult that you can trust. Mm-hmm. That has a good track record, yes. And that can that you can confide in, and if you ever get burned by that adult, don't make that seem as if all adults are like that. Find you someone else, but you got to have someone to talk to. You got to be able to vent, you got to be able to let it out, so I definitely agree with that. So my next question is, what signs do you wish families notice in struggling youth? What signs are kind of obvious or that may not be as obvious that you think parents should be paying attention to?
So one of the biggest things I think I learned was the difference in how we treat boys and girls. Girls get counselors and boys get JPOs. Mm. Because boys, their depression and struggle comes out as anger because they don't know what to do with it, because we tell them, suck it up. Don't be a wimp. Don't, however you want to put it. We put a lot of pressure on them to always have it together. Yeah. Nobody always has it together. And when you're 15 or 21, you really don't have it together. You're still trying to figure out who or what you are in the world.
Very true.
Not 18 or 21, and I'm still trying to figure that out some days, but boys, we handle them so differently. Now, that is not to say excuse their behavior and, give them a blank check to act however they want. They have to be responsible for their choices, no matter what the root of it is. There's always consequences to our behaviors. Right. So I'm not saying like, let them off the hook. But figure out what the root actually is. Is it really just anger that's just misplaced? Is it really just that they're struggling with something else they can't explain? Just what is it really? But beyond that, any kid that's got a sudden change in behavior, whether that looks positive or negative, sometimes it's the quiet kid is suddenly talking all the time. Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes it's the kid who has always struggled to just, I made it to school, I'm here, I'm dressed, I got a solid C, I'm good. All of a sudden, they're making A's and they're busting their butt and they're doing all the things to try to make that parent happy. And there's no reason as to why all of a sudden something changed. There's probably a reason somewhere. And it doesn't mean that it's always a negative, but as a parent, you need to be present and consistent and communicating openly with your kid enough to figure out why the change in that. And I think the biggest thing really is to talk openly. You don't have to like what your child says all the time, and they don't have to like what you say, but you have to be able to communicate. If you can't be honest with each other and you can't say, here's why I feel this way, without it becoming an instant argument, then they're not going to come talk to you, and you're not going to know what's going on with them. Especially like you were saying with the cell phones, in a world where they have so much instant access to so many other people and so many other places that will fill their head with things maybe you don't agree with as their parent.
Right.
And things that are not good for them. And especially where with social media being their entire existence a lot of times, because most of these kids have never not known a world that didn't have social media.
Oh, yeah.
It's been there since they were born, and so they don't, to them, it's just life. They don't realize the dangers, but comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes, ma'am.
And so when they're just looking at the highlight reels of everybody's good days, they're going to look at their days that they're struggling, or they don't want to get out of bed, or, they haven't showered in 3 days because they just don't have the energy. They're looking at this kid who all they ever see on their TikTok or Instagram is, hair done and clothes right. And,
The good stuff. Like you said, the highlight reel. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think as parents, you really have to pay attention to any change in your child, no matter what that is, and see if you can find the root of it.
Okay. Did you see any of that in your son?
So with Kyle, like I said, he was 19 when we lost him. And from about 15-ish, we had a lot of struggles. We did counseling, we did therapy, we did medicines, we did 2 or 3 different trips to the mental hospital for stays. We did get JPO involved because at one point there was nothing I said that fazed him. And honest to goodness, for us, that was the best blessing in disguise that I think I had in the 2-year window, because he listened because he had to. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of hit him differently, that it's not just mom saying I have to do these things and I have to behave this way. The world expects me to. And so they were actually able to, I know they take a lot of flack for being a negative and they don't do enough. And I know a lot of kids that their parents just think that's the end of the world because their kid has a probation officer. Yeah. For us, that was not the case. And I don't think that's the case across the board. I think we only hear the negatives because we talk about those the loudest.
Right.
But for us, it was actually a really good thing. And so, we'd had the ups and downs, and we'd had the leveled off times. And at the point where he was, none of us saw it coming. We had all stayed on alert for 3 or 4 years of, hey, his brothers and myself and just other people in his world, we would kind of communicate amongst ourselves sometimes of like, are you seeing this? Are you seeing that? Is he talking to you about this? And not breaking confidences when, he needed them, but like, hey, be aware.
Right.
Kind of conversations. But he had put himself in some situations by his own decisions that were, not great living circumstances, but he wasn't out hurting anybody. He wasn't hurting himself. He wasn't, being a problem, quote unquote, in the world. He just was having to feel the consequences of his choices a little bit. And so, as a parent, you have to figure out, when do you let them do that and when do you give them a safety net? And that line is hard to find sometimes.
It is.
And so we were at the point we thought that's where he needed to be, was feeling those consequences. And I still think that was the right choice. I just think something broke. I think he just got tired, because the day he died, he sat on my porch that afternoon. And we talked and we chatted, and he had a new job he really liked. He talked to me about his plans for the next week, for the next 2 or 3 months of how to improve his living situation, of how to get out of, where he'd put himself. He left my house and went to a friend's house where a bunch of them were having dinner together. He made plans with one of them that he worked with. He made plans to carpool with him to work the next morning. As he was leaving, he made plans with his other friends. I'll see you this weekend. I mean, all the normal things. And he was back where he was staying about 15, 20 minutes when he sent a text. And I couldn't get to him fast enough. And so for us, we're a little bit of the outlier, I thought, but apparently we're not, because I've talked to several parents who that was kind of their circumstance as well. And not because they weren't trying, not because they weren't looking, but everything seemed okay.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the things, if you have a child that's struggling with a mental health issue, just because they look okay right now doesn't mean they are. You have to keep doing that check-in. You have to have somebody, if they're not going to talk to you, you got to have somebody in their world that keeps saying, hey, how are you doing with this? How are you doing with that? And he had all of that. He did. But he just got tired. Yeah. Just got tired because mental health struggles are exhausting.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Like the wear and tear on you mentally, and then it starts to affect you emotionally and then physically. Because I know people that deal with like anxiety and how they can almost have like these panic attacks, and it's like they get so overwhelmed, and it's like their mind is constantly racing. It's like they never get that rest. And when they finally do, it's like, oh, boom, like, thank you, God. Like, yes. I've made it over somehow, But man, that is, yeah. I like I said, as a mother, I was a father. Yeah, that's one of those things you never even want to, place yourself in. Or if I was in that situation, I would do this. That's one of those you just like, God, I just pray I never have to experience that,
I think, you asked earlier, how has the things I've gone through changed me? And that's one of the things I've learned is like, you really never know how you're going to handle something until you're in it. So for you to look at somebody else and say, well, you should, or I would, you can think that. And for some things, that's okay, because they're kind of basic and simple. But when you're looking at how somebody's handling their life and the things that have happened to them, you just can't do that.
Yeah. That's one of them games I don't play. It's like, yeah, I won't answer that question. Like, I don't like playing the blame game when something bad has already happened. It's like, what's the point? We're not going down that route. We're not going to, go through our minds and if this, if that. No, it is what it is. Let's kind of, walk in God's grace and try to figure out this new normal.
The what if game is very dangerous. Because you can't go back, you can't change it. And for whatever reason, God has allowed you to be right where you are. Yeah. And it's up to you to decide what you do with that. Yeah. And you can either keep trusting him and keep walking. And whatever that little step is today, if it is just, I got out of bed, I moved from the bed to the couch, that's okay for today. But don't quit. And keep looking for where he's putting you, because there's a reason you're where you are. And people are surprised when I say that, given where I am in the world. I'm surprised when I say that, because I shouldn't, I guess, for lack of a better way to put that. I shouldn't feel like I'm where I am for a reason, but I am.
But we all are.
We all are. It doesn't make it easy.
No.
I'm a member of a club nobody wants to be in. Nobody. And we'd love to close membership. Like we would love for no parent to ever feel that way,
Yeah.
But I can choose what I do with it. And I can stay at home and I can hide in my room and I can cry every day, or I can get up and I can go love on people and I can try to make the world just a little bit better. When we started our foundation, our belief was, if we help one child, if we help one family, if we help one parent not walk this walk, it will be worth every ounce of tears and blood and sweat and work to get them help, to get them where they need to be. And I was good with that. I'm still good with that. But I'm not going to quit there.
Right.
But if just one, if my baby's story changes one other baby's story, then I'm okay with that. We know of several now because of the things that we've done in the community and just having conversations, just being open and talking about the messy things that nobody wants to talk about. There have been several kids who have either gone and reached out to an adult. We've been able to connect them with help they needed. Or one young man wrote his own obituary and sent it to a friend. And the friend immediately, thank God, went straight to his parents and said, "This is not okay. I don't know what to do with this." Well, it so happened that the parents knew one of my older boys and said, "Hey, what do y'all do? How can you help? Who do we talk?" Because it's on a weekend. So they're not going to be at school tomorrow. They're not, where the kid can see him and say, "Hey, are you okay?" Call the counselor, call the principal, whatever. Yeah. So at 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning, I'm blowing up phones of administrators and counselors saying, "Hey, I don't know this kid. Here's the only descriptor I have," because we don't always know the names.
Yeah.
We do that on purpose. That way that kid doesn't feel like everybody knows their business. So I'm like, I just need you to give me enough information to give to the people that know this child so they know who I'm talking about. And his mom had no idea. His mom had no idea. And because that friend said, "This is not, you don't need to do this. This is not okay," that kid got help. That mom is not part of this club.
Yeah.
And, just hearing those stories, and I will never know all the impact we have.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that too. But not having an impact, I was not okay with.
I like that. And see, God has equipped you for it, built you for it. And you probably sit back like, why me? But I mean, God is sovereign and we don't understand a lot that he's working behind the scenes. So I just want to encourage you though, just from talking to you thus far, it's been amazing to see your strength and the heart that you have behind what you're doing and your willingness to be vulnerable, your willingness to put yourself out there to be able to help change somebody else's life. That's service and that's love. And I just pray that you continue to do it and that you're able to, impact lives and stop this chain, in as many kids' lives or young adults' lives as possible. Like I said, we don't really know what these kids are going through.
Mm-mm.
They do have their own stress and peer pressure that they deal with. And we sometimes think that it's nothing, and I've been guilty of that, as I've been dealing with the youth. And then you start to realize when we did a class, it was like, what do y'all, what's on y'all minds? What runs through y'all mind on a weekly or daily basis? What stresses y'all out? And they just started naming stuff. We was like, really?
Mm-hmm.
We was like, wasn't even thinking that stuff would even be on your mind.
Right.
And then like some people's homes are just bad.
They are.
But like I said, stay encouraged and continue doing what you're doing. My last question that we have here is, it says, what hope would you share with someone who feels alone? What hope would you share with them?
That's a really hard question to answer. It shouldn't be, I feel like sometimes, but I think it comes back to that we're all so different and we're all in such different circumstances that what sounds like hope to you might not sound like hope to the next person. But I think for the most part, we all need one person. Like you were saying, everybody needs somebody to vent to. And just make sure you have one person. And don't feel like you can't go to that one person just because you haven't heard from them lately. Because the truth is, we all get so busy in our life with responsibilities and, we have to go to work. We got to pick up the kids. We have to do all the grown-up things that sometimes friendships kind of get dropped to the side a little. And we don't nurture those like we need to. So don't think that just because somebody hasn't communicated with you doesn't mean they don't care. It doesn't mean you're alone. It just means maybe they're busy, or maybe they're going through something, and maybe you checking in on them is what they needed, because then you'll feel better by helping them feel better. And then you can kind of work together. But you're never as alone as you feel. That is our thought processes. That is a seed planted that is meant to destroy us. It is meant to keep us isolated. So that, and I battle this all the time. I don't want to feel like a burden. I don't want to feel like I'm being a problem for somebody. It is hard for me to ask for help. It is hard for me to accept help. When I was young, my daddy told me one time that a man taught him. He said he was trying to help him with something, and my dad kept turning him down. And finally, the gentleman looked at him and he said, "You're blocking my blessing."
Yeah.
And I remember him teaching me that as a kid. I was probably early teens, but it didn't stick. It didn't really stick until probably the last 10 years. But it's still a battle, And so it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to accept help. And it's okay to say, "I'm just not okay." Whatever that looks like for you. It doesn't have to look like somebody else is not okay. It's not a measuring table. It's not a race or a comparison. It's just, how are you today compared to yesterday?
Yeah.
And if you're not doing okay, there's always somebody. There's always somebody. Whether you believe it or not, it is. And you have to remember that and know who your support system is. And if you don't have people, find people. We are more connected and yet less connected than ever before.
Yeah.
Because, our social media and devices, we're always connected to something, but it's not personal. So put your phone down and talk to somebody, and maybe you have to talk to them on the phone, but, actually call them. I absolutely hate phone calls, so I say that with, knowing that I'm the worst about it. But a phone call is very different than a text. Hearing someone's voice and them care about you and them, stop what they're doing to talk to you changes things. It's very hard sometimes to not assume the worst. We're kind of designed for it a lot of times, I think, especially in our comparison culture, that we just always think we're worse off than everybody else. And so take a step back and disconnect from all of the social media, from all of the comparing to everybody else, and just look at you. Just look at what you're doing. Make a list every day if you need to. There's some apps that are great that several people I know use, because they're very simple things that I got out of bed, I brushed my teeth, I got dressed, that you can check them off. And they're basic things, but sometimes that's all you can do.
Yeah.
So tell somebody, "Hey, I completed my checklist today." They don't have to know what that checklist is if you're not ready to share.
Yeah.
But be accountable to somebody of, I'm trying.
That's good stuff. Is there anything else? Well, let's do this. Do you have a website or a certain phone number, Facebook page that people can reach out to you, that if they know someone, or if they themselves are dealing with this type of issue, can reach out to you?
Absolutely. We have Facebook and Instagram. It's strictly just the Kyle Jones Foundation. It's easy to find. The website is kylejonesfoundation.org.
Okay.
A lot of our information is there of our story more so, and then kind of some of the things that we do throughout the year. But if you know somebody that needs some kind of help, we can help you. I'm a very good middleman. That's what I am.
Okay.
Like, I'm not equipped to be a counselor or a therapist. I'm not built for that. God didn't put me there on purpose. But I know some great people that
you got the connections.
Yeah, I know some great people that we even help cover the co-pays for kids who don't have insurance or their insurance doesn't cover it or that kind of thing. We have some offices that work with us to make sure that happens discreetly. We don't know any of their personal things. We just know which account to get the credit to.
Yeah.
Nothing they say comes back to us as it shouldn't. That was one of the things that somebody worried about. They were like, well, you have to have access to my stuff. No, I don't need to know anything. I just need to know if you showed up so I can pay the bill. That's it. But we have some options for some mental health first aid community training that we have done a couple of times already. We have a gentleman who has agreed to conduct the training. We just make sure we provide him a place and the people to do it with. It's very helpful. It's a one-day deal. We cover the cost of anything. So it's just you show up and learn how to help the person next to you.
Awesome. That's good. That's good stuff. Anything else you want to say before we close out?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So once a month, we do a Third Thursday event at the Break Room in Rogersville. And what we do is it's basically just a safe place for your kids to come and be loved on. We open up pool tables and we have card games. We feed them. There's board games and there's always something going on. We cover all the costs for everything. There's drinks, food, snacks. There's always somebody around who's willing to hang out and laugh and, just be in the room with you. It doesn't have to be a serious conversation. Nobody's going to, judge you or give you a hard time. There's a group of us adults, and we have some kids that are consistent that show up to just hang out with the other kids that come. It's not just us old folks,
right?
Hanging out. We have several young people that come, and that's their heart too. And so that's probably our biggest direct connection that we see is by doing that every month. Kids know that at least one time a month there's somewhere they can go and just be. No responsibility, no need to have to be anything they're not. They don't have to have money to go eat, because for some kids that's a real struggle. They can actually go out and do something. They can grab a friend and bring them with them. We, like I said, we primarily do 15 to 25-year-olds, but we're not going to tell somebody that needs help no. But that I think is our, I don't know the word I'm looking for there, but that's where we really get to meet the kids more so and get to start building those relationships that hopefully help them.
It's more personal and intimate.
Yeah. Because a lot of what we do is through the schools or through the school board, which is great because they're far more equipped for those things. And I can just, help cover some of the struggle, take a little bit of the load off so that helps them do their jobs better. But that's our most direct personal thing we do. And, sometimes we might have 4 kids that show up, and sometimes we might have 20 kids that show up. But we're ready for whatever. And so whoever comes in, we'll meet them at the door and feed them and hopefully send them home happy.
Awesome. Well, that's going to be our time, Miss Rebecca Jones. We thank you for joining us on tonight here at the Elevated Chat Room, where if you elevate your mind, you can elevate your life. And I think we've done that tonight. You have given so much knowledge and information and through your experience. So like I said earlier, just keep doing what you're doing. Stay encouraged, stay prayed up. And I know God will continue to put the right pieces to the puzzle for your life and what he's doing for you. But just don't take your job lightly or your assignment lightly. There's parents and kids out there that really, really need this, so just keep doing what you're doing. And we thank you for joining us on tonight, and we really enjoyed it. So that's our time. We are checking out. We will see you guys on the next episode. Like, share, comment. You guys be blessed.